wabarakatuh. Hello guys, welcome to our channel. Today we will learn about the culture and forest language teaching. So we hope you all enjoy it. Now you know that it's important to know of the target language when you are teaching and or studying a forest language. According to the year 1996 stats about the incorporation of culture into the forest language curriculum. Language teachers have been at the business of incorporating cultural information into their forest language class long before it became popular to do so. Well, these teachers might not have used the term culture. They are certainly aware of the fact that one does not communicate in a foreign language by grammar and vocabulary alone. Yet now that experts are suggesting that teachers add culture to their language classroom, the situation becomes problematic because it is not really clear what this means in practice. According to Dwyer, the problem with incorporating culture into foreign language teaching is that there are many disagreements about the meaning of language and the meaning of culture. So what does he mean by statement? Yes, that's true. It is difficult to find the exact definition of language and culture. Then your main concern in teaching it is those three language component and do not really concern with the culture, but if you define it as a system for expression of thoughts, feelings, etc. by the use of spoken sounds or conventional symbol, then culture is really important in the teaching and learning process. So you see, it is important to have a clear definition of those two words before you teach.
Hello guys, I'm Retno Fitriani. I would like to continue the material from Rika. Okay, in this occasion, I would like to give the material or topic about number 1, 3 reasons according to Bayram to consider the cultural study in teaching a foreign language. And number 2, the conclusion about Bayram reason in consider the cultural study in teaching a foreign language, and the third is the objective of teaching a foreign language. Okay. Bayram mentioned 3 reasons to consider the cultural study in teaching a foreign language. The first reason the first issue is a growing concern within foreign language teaching with the ways in which language learning is related to cultural learning. It indicates by praise such as cultural awareness, inner cultural learning, and etc. And the second issue is that culture study in some case is taught as part of course for teacher of foreign language either at the beginning of their career or as the part of their career and of the mid their career. The study of British culture is often part of the training of teacher of English as a foreign language. For the student, the relationship between culture studies and language teaching is important. not only as part of their own learning process, but with respect to their methods of teaching language and culture to others. The third issue discusses the differences of stage or level of learning. Foreign students of British culture might be at quite different levels in language acquisition. The example, they may also have quite differences, purpose, and opportunities in the learning. Based on three issues, according to Bayram, we can conclude that there is close relation between cultural study and foreign language teaching or learning. In his first issue, Bayram mentioned that there is a close interest between the student who study culture and the student who study a foreign language. One study foreign culture should use the language spoken by the society of the culture to be able to understand the culture. In other words, one study a foreign language should also know the culture of the society in which the language is spoken. He also mentioned the importance of teaching culture for English teachers that help them in teaching English to their students. So, you must have a clear picture of the meaning of language and the meaning of culture when you teach or learn foreign language. Then, based on your definition of language and culture, you have to decide your objective in teaching a foreign language or in learning a foreign language. Let us say that your main objective of teaching a foreign language is to enable learners to communicate using a foreign language in different ways and with native and non-native speakers. It will be discussed by Dinda. Okay.
Assalamualaikum. Hi guys, I'm Dinda Nurlaili and now I want to explain about conversation people, native or non-native speakers, and then teaching method and the last authentic materials. Okay, let's start with conversation people, native or non-native speakers. In this conversation people about native or non-native speakers, there are two short conversations. The first conversation between Indonesians and Americans. In this conversation runs smoothly because of the same cultural background, and the second conversation between Indonesians and Americans. In those conversations, Americans might be offended what Indonesians say. This happens because of the cross-cultural misunderstanding problem. In this problem, the right way to resolve misunderstanding is to understand the correct context. Okay, number two is teaching method. In teaching method, the language used must be related to the context of the students. For example, if you teach English to Indonesian students, you must use teaching language that are related to Indonesian context. The expert support this method because students can learn the target language faster and easier. And then the last is authentic materials. According to Dwyer 1987, defines that the meaning of authentic material as a text created by fluent speakers of a language for communication with other fluent speakers of that language. And then non-authentic materials are produced by non-fluent speakers of the language or by fluent speaker of the language for purpose other than communication with first language users. By using authentic materials, both the teacher and the students are exposed by the culture of the target language.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Nisaul Chusna, NIM 28. I want to explain how culture can be transmitted in the process of teaching a language. In looking at the relationship between language and culture, Krams 1998, quoted from Sire 206, look at language in the function of influencing, displaying, and symboling culture reality. By using language, humans are not only articulate experience, funds, idea, and even for each other, but also convey attitudes, beliefs, the point of view, so language to culture really with human assistant creates experience. Experience becomes important when language becomes the medium. Cultural experience is also symbolized by language. Language becomes a culture symbolist because, as a science system, language contains culture value. Humans are able to recognize and distinguish from each other more. Let's talk the use process of how to use the language. And then the importance of target natural background. The target language culture background can be explained to you and your student not only through reading text but also through dialogue. What is meant by authentic dialogue? Authentic dialogue is a dialogue spoken by native speakers in a real situation. By using this authentic dialogue, we will get an example of actual usage of. We will get information on the culture background of the speaker.
Okay, thanks for watching. May be useful, and I do apologize if we have some mistakes. See you in the next video, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.